In 1256, Hulagu Khan launched a massive campaign toward the west. His goal was to bring Persia and the Middle East under Mongol rule. One of the first major targets was the fortress of Ilkhanate. The Mongols laid siege to the fortress high in the mountains. The fortress of Ilkhanate could not hold for long. The Mongol army captured the fortress in a short time. The fortress, once thought unreachable, had fallen. Now the gates of Mesopotamia were open to the Mongols. The Mongol army was now advancing toward Baghdad. For centuries, Baghdad had been the heart of the Islamic world. But now, the city faced an approaching and unprecedented danger. The Mongol armies arrived before the walls of Baghdad. In 1258, the Mongols placed Baghdad under siege. The siege quickly began to overwhelm the city's defenses. The Abbasid defenders resisted from the walls with determination. But the city would not be able to hold much longer. In 1258, the walls of Baghdad were finally breached. The Mongol army entered the city. The Abbasid rule was now on the verge of collapse. With the fall of Baghdad, the Abbasid Caliphate came to an end. After the fall of Baghdad, Hulagu Khan established a new state. This state would become known as the Ilkhanate, stretched from Persia to Anatolia. The new state controlled the trade routes between east and west. After the fall of Baghdad, the Ilkhanate army continued, advancing westward. One by one, the cities of Syria began to fall under Ilkhanate control. But the next target of their advance was Egypt. Now they faced a powerful opponent, the Mongols. In 1260, two great armies met at Ain Jalut. The Mamluk cavalry launched their attack against the Mongol army. The battle quickly turned into a fierce confrontation. This battle stopped the Mongol advance in the Middle East. After Ain, Jalut, the Ilkhanate began adapting to the lands they ruled. Persian administrators began to play an important role in government. Islamic scholars became increasingly influential around the court. The Mongols were no longer only conquerors, they had become rulers of an empire. In 1295, Ghazan Khan made a decisive choice. By accepting Islam, he changed the direction of the state. This decision transformed the identity of the Ilkhanate had now become a powerful Islamic state. During the Ilkhanate period, the Silk Road began to revive once again. Trade between East and West became secure once again. The Ilkhanate administration secured control over the trade routes. These routes made the Ilkhanate one of the most important powers in the region. In 1335, after the death of Abbasid Khan, the balance began to change. Struggles for the throne began among members of the dynasty. Regional commanders began acting independently. The Ilkhanate was losing its former strength. The Ilkhanate administration gradually began adopting Persian state traditions. The Karakoyunlu Turkmen began rising across Persia and eastern Anatolia. The Koyunlu soon became one of the major powers of the region. The Koyunlu soon became one of the major powers of the region. Although the Ilkhanate had fallen, its legacy continued to live on. Cities, trade routes, and centers of learning continued to survive. Movement along the Silk Road continued. But a new balance of power was emerging across the region. After the Ilkhanate, new movements began to rise in the east. In Central Asia, new leaders began gathering strength. Across the steppes, preparations for new campaigns were underway. Soon, one name would stand at the center of this movement. After the Ilkhanate, a new power was rising in Central Asia. The leader of this rising power would be Timur. Soon, his campaigns would reshape the fate of the entire region. A new imperial age was about to begin. By the late 13th century, the world had become a stage of powerful empires. In the West, the Byzantine Empire still survived around Constantinople. Across Anatolia, the Anatolian Seljuk state was weakening under Mongol pressure. To the south, the Mamluk Sultanate stood as the only force able to stop the Mongol advance. In the north, the Golden Horde ruled the vast steppe lands beyond the Black Sea. Further east, the Chagatai Khanate controlled Central Asia, and in the Far East, the Yuan Empire dominated China. At the center of this world stood the Ilkhanate, but its power would not last forever. Soon, a new conqueror would rise from Central Asia. His name was Timur.